Our wonderful speakers today are Joe Cox. He's the president and CEO of the Museum of Discovery and Science, and Andrew Sandahl. He's the CEO of the Bishop Museum of Science and Nature. And now I'm going to hand off to Joe Cox for his presentation. Joe?
Thank you so much, Laura, and thank you so much to the Florida Association of Museums and Florida Association of Museums Foundation and all of the sponsors. FAM will always have a really special place in my heart, having served on the board of both FAM and FAM Foundation for many, many years. So thank you, Melinda, for inviting me to do this today. And great to see so many familiar names and faces on the call today. So my name's Joe Cox, and I have been president and CEO of the Museum of Discovery and Science here in Fort Lauderdale for, 8 years almost. So really excited to be in Florida leading this incredible institution. So today, let's see. So today, one of the things we're really excited to talk about is, you know, what is going on with staff burnout? What is going on with burnout at the executive level and throughout institutions? So there is a little bit of a lag, sorry, in the slides moving forward. So what we're going to do today is really talk about how to prevent burnout kind of through three things that we use at the Museum of Discovery and Science: playfulness, resilience, and connection. And so one of the things that, I want to start by recognizing, I walked into each month we do a new staff orientation. And I walked into the new staff orientation. Monday at 12:30 is, my time to go and speak to the new team. And it was this really exciting, bubbly crowd of new employees. Most of them were frontline staff, uh, floor facilitators, box office staff. But there was just this really great energy and bubbliness. And we've been in Fort Lauderdale since 1976. So a lot of our younger employees grew up coming to the museum. And there was just this great energy. But one person in front of their seat was reading a book, which I'll reference again later, Why Zebras Don't Get Stressed. And it's a great book if you've not read it. And so as I walk into the room, this a new employee. I was like, "Oh, you reading this?" She's like, there's so much stress in the world. I want to learn about how to manage it. How do you manage stress?" And I was like, well, okay, first question right off the bat. And we had a great conversation. And how people manage stress is so personal to them. But it's so important to recognize that stress and burnout are a thing recognized by the World Health Organization as an occupational phenomenon. And we all know what this looks like. It's exhaustion, it's reduced performance. But why is this important? And as we go through my deck, you'll see some great images of the children, the community we serve. And I'm always reminded that, you know, this playfulness, this energy that we put into our programs, into our exhibits, into serving our audience, that is a reminder of who we serve and how to keep that energy going in our teams. There are very few children coming on a field trip to any of our museums, whether it's a children's museum, a science museum, an art museum, a historic home, who are, exhausted and not excited to be coming on that field trip. My favorite thing of all is when I'm sitting in my office and it's, 9:55 and you can hear the field trips outside start chanting, "Open mods, open mods." They are ready, they are excited. That enthusiasm is what powers me. So, a little bit about the Museum of Discovery and Science for those of you who haven't been here. We've been around since 1976. We serve almost 500,000 visitors a year at our downtown location in Fort Lauderdale. We're accredited and we're incredibly recognized, incredibly honored to be recognized by IMLS in 2023 with the National Medal. And that National Medal is truly a recognition, I think, of the great work that our team does each and every day. We're also opening a satellite location in the city of Deerfield Beach, which is under construction as we speak. This picture here is some of our high school interns. We have a paid high school internship program. This year we have, I think, 115 paid high school interns who work with us 25 hours a month at the museum. They are never tired. They have boundless energy. But I think what we look at when we look at, what are those early signs of staff burnout is employee? Are you seeing absenteeism? Do you have high turnover? How do we prevent this? To kick things off today, one of the things, and please feel free to just kind of answer in the chat and we'll kind of look at where people are. And if you're not comfortable answering, that's totally fine as well. But what's a sign of burnout that you've noticed either in yourself or in your team? I know from personally, it's like when I don't have that energy to get up in the morning and go to the gym because I'm trying to get to work to do one more thing, that's probably not the most healthy situation. But if you've got thoughts, pop them in the chat, and happy to see those. Getting in late, absolutely minor. It's like if I'm not getting in on at 8 o'clock in the morning, I feel as though I'm late. Now, how are we managing this here? Staff members being triggered, absolutely. I know I joke all the time. Museum studies programs needs to have two classes, one on HVAC systems and one on HR and employee engagement. A couple of things that we do at the museum that are embedded in who we are. We're very fortunate to be one of the museums in the Lego Playful Museum Network. If you're not familiar with this, I have some resources I can share. But this is a program Lego started 5 years ago now. There are about 23 museums nationwide. And we've really taken this learning through play to heart. It's embedded in our learning frameworks. And we try to be as playful a place as possible. If I walk through the museum floor and I see a museum staff member sitting on the floor, reading a science book, reading a storybook to a group of visitors, if they're playing with toys from our store, that is fantastic. I'm always looking for staff to be playful. We allow staff to just test things out, play things out. We build in time for prototyping and testing so that it's not just always scheduled. We always have playful moments in board meetings, in staff meetings. We invite them to have playful opportunities, whether it's brainstorming, you know, team meetings where we break out. Lego has an amazing program called Six Bricks that's free, it's available, it's a great icebreaker for staff meetings, board meetings, trainings. And so all of their resources, the Lego Playful Learning Museum Network, available online. Lego has boundless free resources, not just on learning through play as an exhibit, but learning through play as a way to embed that into your institutional culture as well. Just jumping ahead, sorry. One of the things that we do is, really embed all of this into our programming. You know, if you were to put a emoji into the chat, how playful is your museum now? How embedded is that in your daily activities, in your daily program? Is it a smiley face? Is it a sad face? Are you a really playful institution? Or is that not part of your culture? And maybe it's not, and maybe that's fine for it not to be part of your culture. I am jumping on to the next slide. I see it trying. Here we go. Um, One of the things we do often are playful scavenger hunts. This is one that we've done. If we had more time here, we could do a playful scavenger hunt at your at your workplace. We do this with teams all the time. 5 things that you can find in the next 60 seconds. What's something at your desk, at your cubicle, that makes you proud to work at your museum? What's a great book you've got in your cubicle right now? A great Lego creation, got to stay branding and corporate sponsorship is a wonderful thing. Something sticky, sweet, or messy that you have at your desk. Mine is always honey. I drink tea all the time, so keep honey. And then geekiest thing in your museum. We all work in museums. We're all wonderful geeks and proud to be it. So we've all got amazing things. Looking at Robin's comment, Robin, hi, nice to see you. Political environment, something we deal with all the time, locally and nationally. I was just at the Association of Science Museums conference in San Francisco, all kinds of jokes about, oh, you're in Florida. But here's the thing, we live in an incredible state with an incredible opportunities. You look at our attendance numbers statewide, they're bolstered by the fact that we have a great tourism economy. There's so much going for us that, we as an institution have to pl play our hand with the cards we've been dealt. And I think we've got so much going for us in the state of Florida. When I mentioned learning through play, this is a great resource. Really look at some of the things that Lego has, some things like the Lego Build the Change Challenge, all free and available to our staff at no cost. So definitely look into those. Jumping ahead to the next slide. You see it trying, so bear with me. Um, I understand, not everyone has access to, Lego sponsorship to be part of this cohort, but I will endorse over and over. Lego makes all of their resources available at no cost to anyone. So you can literally start Lego camps, Lego Build the Change exhibits, all kinds of great programming immediately and at no cost to your institution. As the slide is moving forward, one of the other programs that we do, we're partners with the Lilly Endowment. The Lilly Endowment approached the Association of Children's Museums a couple of years ago with a really great initiative idea about how can museums integrate positive character traits into the work that they're doing. And our first response was, well, we all do that already. But fascinatingly, what they saw was they really didn't see museums saying that. So we're like, okay, well, let's think this through. So there are now 20 museums nationwide who are partnering with the Lilly Endowment on this initiative. Great program. They've made an incredible investment of about $50 million in these 20 museums nationwide. And the hope is that this will be a continued program. So if you're not following the Lilly Endowment, definitely follow them for the Fostering Character Through Children's Museums and Science Museums initiative. And so what we've done over the last year of this program looked at how we integrate critical thinking, confidence, cooperation, and caring into who we are. We all have our mission, our vision, our values, and we've added in our characters. And these are now integrated into not just exhibits and programs that we're developing, but into our staffing as well. And you say, well, how do these prevent staff work burnout? When we look at critical thinking, this is, and we're offering training for staff, we're offering resources for staff around these, but this helps, health staff reframe challenges as an opportunity. When we look at confidence, it's really about empowering employees to set boundaries, to speak up, to really be their authentic selves at work. and to be able to grow within the institution. Cooperation, as we look at our staff departments, how are we building cross cooperation? We all hear about silos all the time. We all hear about staff, not collaborating. And so really leaning into this to reduce that staff isolation individually. And then caring, we're really focused on building empathy-driven workplaces. One of the things we're doing in this initiative is working with First Lady DeSantis's Florida Department of Education initiative, Florida Building, sorry, it's Resilient Florida or Built Resilient Florida. And this is the First Lady's initiative with the Department of Education to really institute, social emotional learning through character into the Department of Education, into schools across Florida. And so this aligns really wonderfully there in getting empathy, getting critical thinking, getting caring into children and families, but also into our staffing as well. It's been incredibly well received, and our staff really love that they can anchor what they do to these four pillars. We have, as many of you do, I'm sure, and I know Andy's going to get into some of the great work that he and his team do, a Sunshine Committee, an employee committee, and this committee really is all about recognition, support of our staff. And so it's a cross-departmental team led by our character education manager and our HR team, but we have representation from each department, even our interns. One of our interns this summer renamed our Up and Adams staff meeting to the Up and Adams staff meeting because he was leading it that month. So we had a 17-year-old intern leading our staff meeting. It was fascinating. If you want to understand how they think, put them in charge of something for the day. But we do weekly updates. We do great character moments where we encourage people to highlight great moments of character that they've seen from their fellow employees. And of course, all of the staff celebrations, birthday parties, barbecues. For us, it's really celebrating milestones often, celebrating everyone, celebrating everything. And I'd love to see in the chat, how do you celebrate success at your museum with your teams? Success can mean anything from getting a grant, getting an award, getting recognition, a proclamation at the county. But I will say nothing, no amount of pizza parties can make up for great compensation. And I think we all have to recognize, the idea of a pizza party once a month in lieu of, does not fly. As Robin said, and many of us are seeing this, you know, moving out of Florida for any number of reasons, whether it's political or whether it's cost of living. We're in Fort Lauderdale, which is an incredibly expensive community to live in. How do we compensate our staff so that there is a living wage in our communities? It's hard. It's probably the hardest thing that we all have to deal with each and every day. But, we really try to augment our salaries and doing annual reviews of salaries with all of these other benefits that I'm sure all of you have similar or different mixes to. And I think more and more things like an EAP, an employee assistance program, where staff can get resources on financial management. We bring in our corporate sponsors from financial institutions to do training because cost of living is probably the number one reason that people are leaving our communities and leaving our institutions. But for us, we're always looking at things like paid holidays, looking at things like PTO. We do an annual performance review, which is not linked to employee raises. We do that separately as part of our budget process, but we do an annual employee strategic development plan. So this review process is really, and it ties into building that culture of we're all part of the same team. We tie our reviews to our strategic plan. So it's really looking at how are you as an individual, as part of a department, as part of the institution, moving the institutional plan forward? And how are you going to move it forward next year? What skills would you like to develop so that you can be better in your role? What new assignments, new projects are you going to be taking on? But it's always linked back to specific goals and objectives within our strategic plan. And as I say, employee raises, we try to do those each year as part of the budget process, so they're not separate. As I wrap up, this is the book I mentioned in the reel, Why Zebras or Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. Really great book, but everyone's individual. There are a million books, a million resources out there on this. I think the important thing to us as leaders in the field is to really recognize what our institutional culture is and how we can work with individuals to really bolster them, support them, because ultimately, we as a museum field are looking for those future leaders. We're looking for people to stay in the field, to grow with us, and keep the field strong in Florida. Our approach is blending play, blending character, and care to really build that workplace culture. Your institutions are going to have your own culture. But for us, it's always about listening to staff, truly having that open door policy where staff can pop in to you, to HR, to their directors, recognizing what those early warning signs are of burnout. Is it repeated, attendance issues? Is it not performance at the level you want it to be? How to use, in our case, playing character intentionally and building systems of care into your team culture so people know they have the resources that they need to really get the help when they need to get the help. And with that, thank you. Here's my contact information, and we'll have time for questions after Andy's presentation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Joe. I really don't want to know how many people have got the closed captioning on just to be able to understand mine and Joe's accents in this. I know that, I'm hoping that's not why we gave you that facility. Um, Interesting. One of the points Joe made my ears prick up because it's something I've been saying a long time too, that when you do museum studies school, you learn a lot about the technical side of our job. You learn a lot about the different departments we work with and all those things. But yeah, I would agree. How to fix HVAC systems, how to manage HR and personnel, and I will also add how to fix roofs. If you're coming down to Florida, you'd have to know how to fix roofs as well. But I'm going to talk a little bit about what we do here at the Bishop. So we're a slightly smaller museum than Joe's. So we're about 40 staff. We're a budget of about $4.5 million. Very, very multi-generational here. I actually have 50, 50-year age gap between my youngest and oldest staff here, which brings some interesting intergenerational issues, different perspectives, different expectations, certainly with the way they all interact with each other, they all relate to each other. But we're a fun museum. We are a science and nature museum, mostly natural history. We have a planetarium. I'm trying to get through the photos of it, so I'm going to keep pressing next as we go to get to the good stuff. Right in the heart of downtown Bradenton, you can see our planetarium there. That's our Mosaic Backyard Universe at the north end of the campus there. We've been around since 1946, opened in 1947 in a different location. We've been in our current location since 1966. Um, and what we're probably best known for, apart from our natural history work, is we're also kind of unique as a manatee rehabilitation facility. So we actually, at any given time, will have 2 or 3 young juvenile manatees here for rehabilitation before we release them out to the wild, which is interesting because that also gives us different mentalities of staff, people who are here for very different reasons. As we all know on our staffs, we have very different specializations in there, and we have a pretty unique one in having the manatee care team there who work a totally different schedule to everybody else. They are 365 days a year. They are sleeping in the building when we have any kind of issues with the manatees. They have a different mentality to most of the museum staff we have. And of course, we also have people who come from the for-profit world, the corporate world, whose skill sets allow them to work in museums too. So what I really want to talk about a little more is to talk about the leadership role in in creating a positive work culture and preventing burnout. It's something that's really fascinated me, and it's something that really came. I think my interest in it came to a head when we went through the COVID pandemic, and I think all of us in leadership positions were really tested as to how strong the cultures of our museums were and the work we actually were doing with our people. And I think we learned a lot about ourselves and we learned a lot about the cultures of our museums during that. During that time, I was the executive director at the Museum of Arts and Sciences over in Daytona Beach. And before that, I'd been at the Orange County Regional History Center in Orlando. So I've been in Florida museums for about 16 years now. But I remember that time well. And I think if anyone ever asked me what piece of work am I proudest of um, in my career, I think it's how we got through the COVID pandemic in Daytona. We got through it without having to make any staff changes. Everybody got paid the entire time we were closed. We finished with more members. We finished with more donations, and our attendance came back very quickly because we could utilize the positive staff culture we'd built there, where everybody believed in the museum and wanted to see the museum come through it. And some of the work we did was absolutely fantastic. Literally everybody just flipped their roles, looked at ways they could contribute and wanted to stay engaged. And the amount of communication between my staff of just checking in with each other, knowing they all had each other was I think something I'm so proud of that we were able to do that. But I think it's important with leadership roles that we're privileged to have. We have to realize that our staff cultures reflect how we treat our staffs. Our staff cultures reflect how we position ourselves within our museums. And these are some of the things I've learned, I think, are fairly standard, but these are important leadership traits I think we need to be showing we can demonstrate, and we need to be demonstrating every day to our staff, particularly like empathy and compassion is an important one. We're all very, very busy people. And I'll get to this at the bottom point. This is where it often comes in. But again, as leaders, we have to demonstrate we care about people enough to give them time, even when we're busy ourselves. Self-awareness is a really big one, I think, very important to me, that we are aware of our own natural traits, we're aware of our own natural biases, and we recognize sometimes we have to put ourselves in uncomfortable positions because that's what's the best for our staff. That's what we chose to do when we took on leadership roles. Encouraging self-development. It's interesting. I see a lot of workplaces, a lot of museums, and any kind of workplace where they seem to not have a very good staff culture. And I think a lot of it is based in a paranoia that staff are going to leave, that worrying about staff becoming too powerful, worrying about staff growing too far in their roles. And staff development is something I always encourage. I know I don't work in the largest museum in the country. I don't work in the largest museum in Florida. I want staff who are hungry for more responsibility. I want staff who are hungry to try new things. I want staff who feel that their creativity isn't stifled, or certainly isn't punished. So allowing staff to develop both professionally and personally in their roles, I think is really, really important. Something I always try and do. Transparent communication. There is nothing a staff will spot faster and will demoralize them than being duplicitous, than being inconsistent with what you say to them. I'm sure we've all worked for people who we couldn't trust what they were saying. We couldn't trust whether or not they meant what they were saying to you. So being transparent, being open about these things is incredibly important, particularly, again, during times when people are scared, when people are worried, when things are going on. Taking that time is really important to do that. And flexibility and adaptability. This is something I push very hard with the staff. It's something that, particularly if you come in from outside of museums, I found it most recently with some educators that are kind of used to the classroom environment. They're kind of used to the routine of a school environment. And they get thrown curveballs when you work with the public. It's one of the first things whenever I hire people. It's one of the first things I ever say to them is you're about to learn an awful lot about the public. If you're working with the public in a different way, it's why a lot of my favorite staff and people I've seen really come to work well in museums, people who've got some experience in hospitality or retail, who've already understanding that working with the public is going to throw curveballs daily to them, and that the ability to adapt to those is a really important character trait. The last one I've written large and I've written in all caps is because it is one of the most important things I've learned, and it's something I try and deal with every time I spot it happening. One of the first big staff issues I had to deal with when I went to Daytona was a very demoralized department. And what came out was that every time they met with their director um, to kind of talk about themselves, to talk about what they were dealing with, issues they were having, that director's response every single time was, yeah, but you should see what I've got to deal with. You should see how hard my job is. You should see, oh, that's nothing. You should see how many emails I've got to respond to. You should see what someone said to me yesterday. There is nothing will tell your staff you're not looking out for them more by always topping them and telling them it's worse for you. This all comes into the traits you and the behaviors you have as a leader that will reflect on your staff's culture. The most important thing is to always think to yourself, no matter how busy you are, no matter how stressed you are, no matter how hard you are working, the response to somebody else having a hard time is not that you're okay because I'm having a worse time. It should never ever counter that. And if you see it in your staff, if you see it, it's one thing to empathize and share you're also busy. But if it's a way of minimizing their concerns and their issues, just stamp it out in your culture, and that will help your staff culture so quickly. It's unbelievable. These are some of the behaviors I think are very, very important. And what's interesting is I've been working with one of our community partners and getting to know them a little bit better since I've been here. I've been in this role about 2.5 years now, so I'm getting to learn a new community. And it's a very interesting community over here in Bradenton. But I'm actually working with an architect's company. And I'm actually going to be working with them to come and look at some ways we can do some things here because they put so much priority on their staff culture because their attitude is something that I think we can all learn from as well, which is we can have the best collections, the best exhibits, the best programs, but if they are not delivered by a staff that are engaged, that are creative, that are enjoying what they're doing, we're going to be an average museum. What separates great museums from good museums and average museums is the quality of the staff and the commitment of the staff. And building that healthy culture is the only way to do that. And that's what they view, is that they want a staff who enjoy being at work, recognizing everyone's going to enjoy every single day, but they're going to have staff who come to work every day because it's not onerous to them, because it's somewhere where they feel they're listened to, somewhere where they can share their experiences, and somewhere where they feel nurtured in their personal and professional development. A genuine open door policy isn't just, oh, you can come and see me anytime. It's when people do come and see you, unless it's dire circumstances, your door is open and they can come in and share with you straight away. And my staff, I hope, feel that anytime they come to see me, if I say, can we do this another time, I will arrange that time with them right there and then keep to that time, or I will make every effort I can to speak to them in that moment to hear what's on their minds. Opportunities to share, staff to share their stories and celebrate their successes is a really interesting one that I picked up from this architecture firm, that they said that when they go around their monthly meetings or their weekly meetings, they don't just get the staff to share what they're working on at work. They ask their staff to share what they're working on at home. They ask their staff to share something from their personal life that's interesting them at the time. They're doing things now like they're creating book clubs that are on work time for them. Trying to create these things where they can actually share their personal interests so to get to know each other a little bit better as well. The strategic meeting schedule I'll get to in a second because I've learned, even though meetings can feel a little bit of a chore and a burden to us all, when you actually get a good schedule, putting time and effort into that really helps with everything you're doing. Recognizing staff's life outside the museum. That's one I really learned the importance of when I was in Daytona. And it's actually become one of my standard interview questions when I interview people now for any position in my museums. I ask them about what their hobbies are. I ask them about what do they do as something in their personal life that informs their life, that is something that they're proud of, that is something that has given them a discipline or a avenue outside of work that actually makes them a well-rounded individual. And it's brought up some really interesting things. We've done everything from my old head of marketing at MOAS was a very committed jiu-jitsu student. In the end, she ended up teaching self-defense classes to the team. She actually used to do trainings with our security team. And she was a very diminutive younger woman who scared the life out of us all because we knew she could pick us up and throw us against the wall if she needed to. Um, but that was a great way of encouraging her to do that. We do things here, and I'll get to this as well a little bit here, where we get people to share their interests here at the Bishop with that. Encouraging staff to understand the importance of their own work-life balance is a big part of that. Um, I really stay on top of my staff about taking vacation time. I don't like staff building up weeks and weeks of vacation time. You are doing something wrong with your work if staff don't feel they can take vacation, if staff don't feel they can take sick time. Even things like one of the things I have to work on a lot with young staff is they don't want to pay for healthcare because they just assume they'll never need it, things like that. Getting them to take on healthcare. We actually have a no cost to the employee healthcare option here. So we can get people on and they can't use any financial issues with that. But we also have an employee assistance program helpline with that, encourage them to use those kind of things. But getting people, making sure people aren't building up masses of extra time to take off and not taking it. Because again, the museum can wait. They need to be taking time off, getting away from things. And if you are creating a work program that does not allow staff to take time off, you're doing too much. You're doing it wrong because you're just going to get worse quality work for that. Promoting collaboration. I love putting collaborative teams together in here because they get to know each other. You get different inputs. I know my whole role into administration and leadership in museums came from being allowed to work on big multi-department teams back in England for the National Railway Museum. And that's what gave me an interest in actually taking on a leadership role with all of that. And the bottom one there is pretty simple, leading by example. You have to take vacation yourself. You have to have a healthy work-life balance yourself. You have to take an interest in other people. You have to really care about what other people are doing, because if you don't, that is going to filter down all the way through your staff culture. And it's a very easy fix is to actually take an interest and show you take vacation, show you aren't always the I'm first one in, last one out. You can manage your work life better like that. Go forward again. I talked about the meeting schedule we have. Using strategic meeting schedules is a good way of actually getting face time with your staff, because nothing really is better than getting face time and actually just seeing your staff, not just getting written reports on what they're doing from their supervisors. This seems like a lot, but spread out over a year, a lot of it is kind of the more regular meetings are smaller, the less regular meetings are longer. And this one works perfectly for us at the start because we all work across a very long building where we don't necessarily get to see each other every day, particularly with some of the more specialized roles we have. So every morning here at the Bishop that we're open for the public at 9:15, everyone who's in that day, if they can make it, they come down to what we call a circle meeting in the lobby of the museum. And basically everyone just says where they are that day, where they're working, what times they're in and out, and can share with each other what they have coming in that day, what groups are coming in, anything that's going to be impacting each other. And again, it just brings that respect where no one can say they're getting anything kept from them, and everyone is encouraged to share what they've got going on there. I try to get to that as often as I can, particularly if I've been doing anything externally, and just give it as a briefing to the staff quickly, like this is what I'm working on. Try and get in at least once a week to be able to give my meeting schedule when I'm going to be in and out of the building so they know where I am. Then we have a monthly 45-minute all staff meeting once a month where I present a lot longer. We get the staff to give slightly deeper insights into the work they're doing. I present on what I've been working on. I talk to them about things that are going on in the community. I share things I'm learning about the community, share things that I'm working on with the board. Again, all that transparent communication, take questions about anything we're doing. And then it ends with something I'll get to, which is our team presentation, which is an internal staff initiative to recognize and honor staff and to celebrate staff. Weekly or bi-weekly, or as I was asked to say, fortnightly, as we say back home, we have our internal department meetings where I will meet with each department and their not just their directors, but also the staff themselves in some of our teams. And then every other week, we also meet with my leadership team of all the directors get together, and they're encouraged to share what they're working on, any comings and goings in their teams, any changes, anything that's happening in their teams. And then, yeah, then monthly, We will have I will meet with those teams for an hour just to go over everything and to get a sense of what they're all working on. The biannual one we do is interesting because that's something that's becoming more and more important. We actually just had ours at the start of September, and that's literally we just find a day. We're lucky that we have Mondays, we're not open to the public, and then we also close after Labor Day for a maintenance week here at the museum where we do a lot of work just to reset the museum after a busy summer to get it into the fall and winter season. Um, and that generally is I just do a presentation for a long time about the vision I have for the museum, how it's evolving, what I've learned about the museum, what I'm seeing, what I want us to be working on, just what I see us working on, exactly that. And then have a big long staff discussion afterwards where everyone is encouraged to ask questions, to ask about things they've always wondered about what I'm seeing, what we're doing, and those go down really well. The fact we make them semi-social is really good, and people are really encouraged to do those. And the bottom one is really important. I know it used to be this whole concept of management by walking about, but it is important not to just be locked in your office, not to just have people come to you. You learn so much just from taking a couple of times a day a walk around to see staff in action, to see what visitors are thinking, to see what visitors are doing. You can't manage your museums from sitting in an office. You have to be down there and seeing what's going on the museum floor. It's so important to do that. And it also gives you a chance to catch up with volunteers, gives you a chance to catch up with your staff while they're working on things, just informally. So it's not so prescriptive and so formal with them as the meeting schedule has. So one thing when I first came here, actually the staff approached me about it. I came at an interesting time to the museum. I was the museum's fourth CEO in 2 years when I arrived. There had been a lot of staff turnover. There had been a lot of firings. There had been a lot of resignations. There's been a lot of changes on the board. There was very much a feeling of unease and the staff were scared. The staff didn't know what was going on. They weren't really communicated to. They were just seeing like one day they would be told the CEO or a board member would come in and say, "We've just made a change. This person isn't here anymore." So they wanted to find a way to really get the staff who had weathered it out and had committed to the museum. They wanted a way of having the staff to have some recognition to actually like look out for each other. And they created this idea, the team, the Bishop team, that together everybody achieves more. And it's a committee where every department has a representative on it. And it's not just the department heads. Most of them are other staff in the departments. Some have a couple in there and they have a small budget to work with, but they also do things. They do fundraisers for themselves where they instituted a coffee bar and then a cold drink bar during the year where staff can go down and buy a soda, buy a Keurig coffee and leave $1 there. And that money all goes into other things they do. So they do these kind of things. They do the compliment board in the lobby where staff are encouraged that if they're thankful for one of their colleagues, they will write a compliment down and leave it on the compliment board. And then I'll show you in the next slide. Every month at the all staff meeting, they have 15 minutes on the agenda where they present that month's compliments. They do things like anyone who's got a birthday that month, anyone who's got a work anniversary, they did a poll at the start, and any new staff member that comes in of what are their hobbies, what are their favorite candies, what are their favorite snacks, what do they like to do. So they will get a card, they will get a recognition, they will maybe get candy, they may get a restaurant gift card, they may get something that represents one of their interests. They put out a monthly newsletter as well that they send to all staff that talks about what's going on. They do little trivia questions about the staff, like fun facts about staff members. You have to guess who was each. We had one recently who was training to be one of our staff. I never realized was training to be an Olympic diver before they came to work for the museum. That amazed me when I found that one out. The monthly after hours events is something where they poll each other. We generally try to use the facility here. So they will do like movie nights in the planetarium. They will do game nights. They will do potlucks. They will do trivia nights. Every now and again, we work with our community partners. We have the Bradenton Marauders baseball team is in town. And I often will ask them for tickets. So all the staff will have a staff night out at the game. And then we have an end of summer party to recognize the end of summer camp finishing. We have a holiday party to recognize the end of the year and generally to celebrate we're about to release the manatees and then the beverage bar I talked about. And this just gives you an idea of some of the things they do. And this is, again, I am invited to meetings or I will ask to come to meetings every now and again if there's things I want to talk to them about. But that is all entirely staff led. and they manage that all themselves. This gives you an idea of the compliments, and you can see it's everyone. They actually have an award every month. They give a gift to the person who gave it, one person at random who gave a compliment, and one person at random who received a compliment, to encourage people to do this. And they go through everything. They get a chance to actually stand up and speaking up about just why they're thankful for their colleagues. And then to finish up, I've got a few more photos here that I'll just go through, just show you some of their events that they do, and I'll get through them pretty quickly. But you'll get a chance to see what the staff do for themselves. Again, it's a lot of potlucks. That's laser because we have laser light shows during the summer. We did a special laser show with food and drink for the staff. Um, and then we also do things like the cookie exchange and the winter, and then all the cookies they make. We give a prize out for the best decorated cookies, and then they all go to the staff holiday party. They also do the staff Christmas card. Each department makes its own Christmas card, and they have an award for that every year. And that's interesting to see who was busy at that time and who's got the most creativity on my team. Our facilities team always do a pretty fun one to go to that. And this is some of the stuff they do. Like a few weeks ago, they just used their money they had to buy a bunch of cupcakes and treats and went round to all the staff. They had a treat trolley in one of the classrooms we have. This is in the photo on the with the hot dog roll and everything. They did a hot dog party one day. We just did a ice pops party to mark the end of summer camp. And again, this is all staff led. All staff are encouraged to attend, and we're seeing a big benefit too. We're certainly seeing again with this big multi-generational staff, they're getting to see each other as real people, and they're getting to do a lot together and learn to respect each other and learn to respect each other's differences. And it's making a big difference to what we're doing, and it's something I certainly can encourage everyone to do. This is the game night when they did games on the planetarium dome. That was a fun one. I proved myself that my old Mario Kart skills haven't left me, and I can still hang with the young kids when I need to. So I think that's about the end of everything I've got. So I think we can open up for questions if anyone has anything. I hope it's been useful for people.
What a great job. Yeah, you guys are, this was an amazing session. I hope everybody took as much interest in it as I did. Just hearing some great ideas that you can use within your institution to make morale higher and to, just show people how important they are. And I love the comment, I think Joe made it about future leaders. My goal is to keep people involved in museums from the very young age of, my kids, which were little when they first went to a museum, to those going to college and then coming and making a career of it. And we know it's not for the money, but it is for the joy and for the positivity that we share with our communities in the state and our visitors. So just great session. I guess we can open it up to see if anybody's got a question or a comment.
If I can I just add one more thing? I think me and Joe both touched on, and I think it's something also important to say at the end of this that deserves a comment on its own. Is when I say leading by example, and Joe talked about this, by doing all of this, we take on as leaders an enormous responsibility and a burden to do it. You need to be open and honest with your boards about they need to be watching out for you too. It's incredibly important that you need to have that open dialogue with your board chair, that with your board members, that someone needs to ask you, are you okay as well? I see Kerry's comment there about sharing openly. I don't really talk about this very much, but I think one of the deciding factors in me when I left Daytona after 10 years there, when I had a job I was very much enjoyed, was when I came out of COVID and had taken that on and we did an awful lot of work to get where we were. There was an expectation from the board was, right, great, COVID's over, now get back to work, we're going to work even harder. And I think if anyone on my board had taken a moment to actually check in and say, how are you doing? Because I didn't take a day of vacation for 2 years because I just couldn't afford to. I just needed to stay on top of everything to make sure everyone was okay. And I think that's something that I think the board at Daytona recognized they should have done. And I think it's something I should have demanded from them, that we should be talking very openly with our boards that our mental health, our burnout is very real. And they're the people who need to be watching out for us.
I see we do have a few questions in the chat. Sharon is asking us, I Not sure. Christine is asking us if we have any sources to benchmark salaries for employees. Do you have anything that you use for that?
This is Joe. I know that ASTC puts out occasionally, and so does AAM, their employee salary benchmarks. And I haven't seen a new one in a couple of years. Melinda may know better. Um, but, those two would be the first AAM and ASTC, at least in our field. I don't know if SEMC does anymore, but they're out there.
The last one we did was with AAM, and that was 2017. They
Gosh,
haven't done
okay.
one recently. I can get with AM. I will tell y'all that part of the issue, we used to do our own, is the cost and the time and the fact that if people don't take the time to fill out the surveys, we don't get the information we need. So, but it's certainly something that we need desperately. I mean, I would love to have it so that we did it like every other year or every 3 years, because at least then I think it's more relevant. But I'll reach out to AAM with their leadership change and stuff recently. Maybe they're thinking about doing one, and then I can always bring it to the board. Andy is my treasurer, so I can talk to him and we'll see what we can do. And we had a person who did it for us for years, and they quit doing them, and so it's hard to find affordable ways to get it done. But I know it's really important.
I see Miriam says that AAMD has one from 2023.
I think Griffin has his hand up as well.
Yeah, Griffin.
Hi, thank you both for that presentation. That was really insightful. I have two questions. One is both of you kind of talked about the importance of listening to your staff, and I wonder what that looks like. Did you guys do like surveys to ask what kind of things your staff would like to see and do and experience? Just curious. I'll start with that one, if you don't mind addressing it.
I mean, mine is that meeting schedule. I didn't do anything particularly formal with them. It's having a meeting schedule like that becomes a responsibility because you then have to show that you actually care about what they tell you in it. And that's when you create that loop of open communication, which is if people tentatively start actually sharing what they're feeling, you have to show you care about it and you have to show you act on it as well, even if the action is, we can't really do that and this is why. One of the big things I always say in every single meeting of that is there anything you want me to explain? Like, is there anything you've seen happen? Is there anything you want me to talk about why we did that? And that's kind of where I get it all from, is by having those regular meetings with everyone where they've reached a point where after 2.5 years, they know they can bring up anything, even if it's random about the museum.
I think I'm more thinking about specifically like the Sunshine Committee and the team that you were speaking about, like specifically the events and things that you guys had designed.
Oh yeah, they do polls. They do polls internally. Like they have a committee meeting every 2 weeks, and then they send out polls to the staff of like, these are 5 suggestions for ideas we could do. Which one do you want to do? Then it'll be which movie do you want to watch? Things like that.
Similarly here, the Sunshine Committee kind of puts out surveys, but we've tried to build in kind of an understanding of where employees are into federal grants that we've had as well. So we got an NEH grant that tied into an employee understanding of some specific projects they were working on that we really wanted to study deeply. We're also working with third-party evaluators. We don't actually have an evaluation team ourselves, but we're working with a third-party evaluation on our character development grant. So really understanding how effective that will have been with staff, with exhibits, with programs. And so that's not just us doing the evaluation, it's an external party doing it, which I think is really useful if you can manage to work that into a grant.
That would be amazing. If there's time, I do have one more question. When you talk about some of the things that you were doing internally, do you tackle those things yourself? Have you brought in outside speakers and outside resources? I mean, I know some of that can be expensive, but when you're addressing burnout and all of these things, I mean, none of us are experts in this realm, right? So I'm curious what that looks like if you bring in external people, or you really try to do your own homework and do it internally.
I mean, our first resource is always to look at our corporate sponsors and see, what resources they have, because they usually have access to a much deeper pool of resources than we do. So we'll often invite them in and say, we're working on this. Who do you have on your team who could come speak to our staff?
Yeah, we're in an interesting position because we use a PEO company. So our employees basically go through ADP. So we have all their resources. So we actually have their people come and talk quite often. They have the EAP line they can call. So if they anything very serious like that, they have those resources just because we use that model for our staff. But like Joe, we also like try and bring in people they know. And this is why I'm interested with working with this architecture firm, because they've done such a good job of this and they're noted for it. They're winning awards for it locally, that I want them to start like helping me with that a little bit. Again, it's something I've normally taken the burden on because I haven't always had the most resources. But that's where like again we like try and use like the baseball team to take the team out there to do batting practice and things like that. We use a lot of those resources we've got as community partners.
Thank you.
Okay, I also see that Miriam has said that the New England Association of Museums has a 2024 salary survey. So if anybody wants to take a look at that, it should have some greater variety of types of museums than the AAMD survey, and it's a little bit more recent. So maybe just take a look at that one. Thanks everyone. That was a really interesting session. I learned a lot. I took a lot of notes. We will have it posted eventually. Melinda, you might have a better timeline for that, for people to have access to this, since we've had a few people ask about it in the chat box.
I will I will learn how to do it.
Yeah.
It's something that Carmen used to do, so it's not something I've done before, but I will try to edit down the videos so that we don't have a lot of extra, even though I think we started it actually late, which is good because normally we all talk first and then I've got all that recording. And then it's up to the guys whether or not they're okay sharing the slide deck. If they are, we'll definitely share the slide deck. And that way, those of you that were on the meeting can get it, and those that we have a few that didn't make it in, so they probably know it's being recorded. So I'm happy to get that out there, and I will send y'all when Laura sends out an evaluation, which we will do. We'll send you a link to where those are posted. Just
Got a
wanted
little,
to say one other
some
thing.
learning curve.
Oh well, okay. We're learning. Laura's new, and we're limping along and getting ready now for the conference. So I wanted to reiterate what she said about the conference. It's going to be a great few days of professional development with 23 sessions, like 6 general sessions and expo hall and some great evening events. But I also wanted to mention, I know many of y'all received grants from the Department of State. I know that they are paused right now. I want to assure you that I am talking to them regularly. They are going to tweak some of the rules. I do not see them being huge changes right now. I do think in the future we will make some changes that we want to push to have made. But as soon as we have draft rules, we'll let everybody know. And as soon as we're ready to unpause them, press play again, we'll do that. I know that a lot of the reviewers were people that I helped find, and they all wanted to kill me that day when they thought they read all those grants for no reason. But I think that the changes will not be so that the reviews, I think they may have to go back and review a few things and maybe change the scoring rubric, which I think is going to change somewhat. But other than that, I think most everybody who's already reviewed all those grants will not have done it for naught. So hang in there, everybody. The grants process is always evolving. We ebb and flow a lot, and we're working on your behalf as hard as we can to keep it as stable as possible and also to get as much funding as possible.
All right. If anybody also has any webinar ideas that you want to share with me, feel free to email me at laura@flamuseums.org at any time. And thank you again to Joe and Andy. It was a great presentation.
Great job.